Hello, friends, and welcome into a very special edition of the Marriage Talk podcast on location at historic Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, site of the Celebrate Your Marriage conferences hosted by Jay and Laura LaFoon. And you and I, the three of us, have had multiple conversations to establish for the audience the fact that our marriages are not perfect. So how fun is it to be able to welcome in a couple of special guests whose marriage truly it's just perfect.
Yes.
So Jay, introduce
them for that reason.
That's right.
It's like beyond perfect. What's above perfect?
Is there another level up above that?
Perfect.
Jay, introduce our guests.
Well, this will be a pleasure and a privilege for us because we've known Greg and Erin now for a number of years and have had them up here at our conference numerous times because they are good friends, but more importantly, they care about marriage and they help people understand marriage from a biblical perspective. So this is Greg and Erin Smalley.
And if the last name sounds vaguely familiar to you, that would be
His brother Michael.
Yeah.
so good to have you folks in Northern Michigan.
Yes.
And we're recording this conversation a few hours before you will address 175 couples in the pink and white Barbie doll house theater here at Grand Hotel. So let's do a little teaser. What do you want couples to hear and to take home with them in a gathering like this, which for many of them will maybe happen once or twice in their life?
Yeah. I think for us, we're passionate about helping couples understand that we're all busy, got a lot going on, and it's so easy within our marriage just to end up feeling like married roommates. We hear all the time from couples, we love each other, we're committed, we feel disconnected, we feel like roommates. And Erin and I have gone through seasons exactly like that, and it's so easy to fall into that.
And I don't know anybody that gets married to feel like roommates.
Yeah.
That was not the intent.
No, we want a deeper level connection.
Yeah.
And so that's what we really do is encourage couples. How do you, because there's this natural drift that starts happening, how do you find each other again?
I used to always say it's almost like when you stand at the altar and say, I do, you say, I don't. I don't have to like the things that you like anymore. Because when you're dating, you're like, oh, I love everything that you love.
Yeah.
And then you get married and you're like, I didn't really. I was just to get you. So now I don't have to I don't have to read your car magazines. I don't have to like this. I don't have to like that. I don't have to take you to the mall. I don't have to. And we just naturally have that going unless you intentionally work at keeping that relationship and keeping on the same path.
Yeah. For Erin and I, it was about 7 years into our marriage. I just had come out with my very first marriage book called The Marriage You've Always Dreamed of. And so as I started to promote that book, my wife came in tears and said, not only is this not the marriage I've always dreamed of, but we're so disconnected that it just threw tears. And that was a pivotal moment for us to go, what are we going to do? Like, do we just keep living that way or do we reconnect?
That's not supposed to happen to the people writing the books or hosting the conferences.
That's what I thought.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. No, like you get an
Right.
exemption card. You should be testing out of that automatically.
I argued that too.
Marriage expert, the first foreknown marriage expert, I thought he knew it all for marriage.
Because Dad just osmosis right down to
Yes,
down
I assumed.
I did know it all. It just took her years just to catch up to my...
Your genius,
what it
your
was?
brilliance.
I wasn't going to say it, but...
So, Erin, if you look back on the moments that led up to those tears, where would you say things got away from the dream, even way back when?
It wasn't, it wasn't anything horrific. It was just this slow fade because he had just finished his doctorate. We had 2 children at that point. We had started a ministry. I was in my master's program. It was just a lot of really good things. But we lost that connection because we were running in so many different directions and really not attending to our relationship and to the marriage.
It kind of we're chasing the good and missing the great.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good out there. I mean, getting a doctoral degree, a master's degree, raising kids, these are all good things. But we stood at the altar and said, forsaking all others, I thee wed. And a lot of times that even has to be we're forsaking our own desires and our own, not sometimes, all the time, forsaking that selfish side that says, no, this is the direction I'm going. Come with me or forget it. And we've got to keep the great thing the great thing.
Yeah. I just think it's got to... The thing I think we fall into is this trap that we've been married now 31 years, so clearly I know everything there is to know about it.
39 years more.
Right? Yeah. We're babies compared to you guys. In the truth is, one lifetime isn't long enough to get to know each other because we're always changing. And I think that's a big part of what was going on for us, is we weren't staying on top of just the inevitable change. I wrote an article in Time called "The 4 Women That I've Been Married To," all named Erin.
Only 4?
Yeah. Well, I was going by decades, so we were only in our 40s at that time. But it's
Well, has
true.
it gone beyond that?
No,
40s?
no,
Yeah, how
well,
many
for
are
you
there
it
now?
hasn't.
Okay, right.
She keeps getting lower. I keep aging, obviously. But that's part of what was going on, is that we weren't staying on top of, every different season of just how we were changing and what we were thus really wanting from each other. And so that I would hope that becomes clear as we talk to the couples here. That we've got to stay curious and current, like rediscover each other over and over and over again.
When he brings to you a rough draft titled 4 Erins That I've Been Married To, was that offensive? Did you read it and laugh? Did you then introduce him to the couch for a couple of weeks? Because sometimes in this quest to figure out why we aren't at that dream point, we could probably step on each other's toes a little bit. So what was your memory of that moment like?
So often.
Or did he not show it to you until it was published for the
it
world?
It probably was already published, but there's so much of Greg that I love, that his sense of humor. And so, of course, reading that, I'm like, that's Greg. And it's true, because I have changed so much. I am not the same young lady that stood at the altar in my 20s as I was in my 30s, as I was in my 40s. And that's where it stops. But
and it was never about age. Like, this isn't an age issue. It's we just, as we are together, the adventure, that's a beautiful part of the adventure, is that we're just different people now.
And I think that's why couples give up too soon, because you don't realize, because nobody's talking about it, that you're going to go through seasons and you are going to change, and change is a good thing, as long as you're changing for the better.
Right.
Yes.
And then when those changes happen, nobody's told me that you're not the person that I thought I married. I'm done. No, there's more there to discover. There's more adventure to be had. You just have to realize that you're human. You're going to change. You're going to, I hate to use this word, evolve, but you're going to, the children come and you go, oh, didn't expect that. And then now your wife becomes more focused on the kids. And, dad's sitting over there going, what about me? That's a season that you go through. You're going to go through changes in jobs and careers.
And Dad's still going to say, what about me?
But you don't realize it. Nobody teaches you those things,
They
that
don't.
this is what's going to happen. And
I distinctly remember Laura and I doing a ultimate date night for you and Gary Oliver years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Northwest Arkansas.
Yep, and your dad was having health struggles.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was in my 20s thinking, it's got to get easier, right? And I said that to you, and we both kind of looked at each other and went, darn, it's never going to get easier. We look at aging parents now, and it's like, man alive, what struggles they're going through. And so to understand that the journey is always a struggle. And Tommy Armour, the famous golfer, said, if you want to play golf, you've got to learn to love the struggle. Yeah. And it's the same in marriage.
Yeah.
If you don't understand that there's no rainbows and unicorns, it's hard work, then you're going to be in for a lot of disappointment and a lot of unmet expectations.
Well, and just to keep the golf analogy going, you also have to learn to recover from your mistakes.
Yes.
Right? So you've hit a bad shot, or you've said the wrong thing, or I'll take the analogy for the next 2 hours if you need me to.
Yeah.
But you've got to get it back into play, or you've got to make right what you have messed up. I think about our podcast audience as well as the Celebrate Your Marriage audience. Nobody came here by accident. you're not watching or listening to the podcast by accident. You were searching for something to do with your marriage. Mm-hmm. And you didn't make your way to northern Michigan, get on a ferry boat, come to an island with no automobiles, and either ride a bike in 40-degree weather, get on a horse-drawn carriage, or walk up the hill. You didn't do that by accident. However, that doesn't mean you came here whole and healthy. Mm-hmm. And you folks have seen this, and so have you over the years at all of your events, that there are some people who are here who are hanging on by a thread. Yeah. And that might be, this might be their last gasp effort. All right, I'll give it a try, but this is it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with that?
We had a letter a number of years back of a gentleman who said, I came with the divorce papers packed in my bags.
Oh my goodness.
I was ready to hand them to her. But I came out of respect for my in-laws who paid for the event. Mm-hmm. He said, we got into the first session, and he said 5 minutes in, I turned to her and said, you didn't tell me this was going to be, something different. And he said 15 minutes into the program, when it wasn't guilt and it was we're here to help. He said 15 minutes into the program, I reached and grabbed her hand. And we tore up the papers on the island and recommitted to making the marriage grow. And they come back every year.
Wow.
That's kind of this is a mile marker number 5.
Yeah, it's an Ebenezer for them.
So speak, if you would, both of you, if you want to, speak to the couples that are dangling.
Yeah. Well, I think that how you guys create an event like this that's perfect for couples who are struggling is that the hallmark of a struggling couple is their hearts are shut down, maybe hardened. And laughter is such a great way to begin to see a heart open. Mm-hmm. And when we're laughing together, that creates a safety. When people feel safe, they naturally just open. And so the environment that's being created here lends itself to little cracks in hardened hearts.
Well, and also getting away from home, getting away from the routine, getting away from kids. We find that couples do so much better when they have just a reprieve. And what an amazing place for that reprieve. Just a break to really find each other again, because again, at home, there's, you go to a church event and you go home and there's still laundry and dishes and cleanup, and then you go back. It's just, coming here is just such an amazing experience anyway, but then add in some good teaching and safety. Yeah. And hearts tend to open.
Well, yeah, and like Bill said, this is an island where there's no cars. It's bicycles, feet, and horses. And it's such a...
And fudge.
And fudge. And fudge, and the smell of fudge. But it is
with
such
the horses.
But
there's also fudge
too
tea,
is such a
but
step
not the
back.
horses.
It's such a wow, and you just sit, and you automatically step off the ferry, and you automatically slow down. I was taking a walk yesterday, walking through town, and I was trying to get my steps in, so I was trying to walk fast, and you can't. There's people, and you kind of, I can't walk in the middle of the street because there's horses. So I found myself going, you know what? You don't have to be in a hurry. Just slow down and walk and enjoy. So I started taking in the sights, and that is what happens here. And that's why we chose this place years ago as a place to do a marriage conference, because you are getting away. You're not going back home to the dishes and the kids and whatever else might be happening, but you are having some time to just go. And that's what we're talking about this weekend, is deep breaths. To just take a deep breath, look at each other, and commit that this is a struggle. It is hard work, but we're here and we're going to make it happen.
One of the drums we beat is get away and get ahead. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be here. One of our favorite getaways is to run to Chicago for a weekend. And, I'll price that because I'm cheap. I'll price line a hotel and we'll get something inexpensive. But
I thought you were frugal. You told me I couldn't call you.
But it's just getting away, shaking up that routine. And a lot of the comments we'll get people coming up here is they enjoyed the drive up because it was kind of the decompress. Yeah. And they don't even remember the drive back because they had so much to talk about and so much to process, and it was so positive on their way home.
Well, here we are in a culture that wants us to go, go, go. It's almost the demand. Everything you see is fast-paced. I work in media, and so we study commercial content and the way that things are produced. And if you're ever really bored, and you're in your room at home, or if you're here, turn out all the other lights, leave the TV on, close your eyes, And when commercials are coming on, see how long it takes before the light changes, because there's no scene in a commercial that lasts more than 2 seconds. We are just geared to just go, 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 go. It used to be here at the Grand Hotel and on the island that there really wasn't very good cell reception.
Yeah.
The rooms had TVs that were 4-inch screens.
Yeah.
Before that, there were none.
They look like security
Yeah.
monitors.
Yeah, pretty much. They're black and white, and you could watch the game, but you had to really want to watch the game. And of course, the hotel, like everything else, evolves with time, and now we can watch Michigan win.
Big.
But there's also something to be said for the disconnection time. So part of me laments the time when you couldn't get a good cell signal, because now I have it with me everywhere, right? So in our era of connectivity and overscheduling, you started our conversation by talking about busyness. Can you give an encouragement to our friends who are watching or listening about slowing down, about turning it off and just being instead of recording it all and trying to capture life in some sort of a social media post?
Yeah, Aaron and I believe that you've got to figure out what brings you rest and what brings you life, because those are two very, very different things. Like what's going to recharge me probably isn't going to set my soul on fire and create this passion, and vice versa. The things that I do that just are so life-giving probably are exhausting. Like, we live in Colorado, and so what gives me life is to be up in the mountains fishing. So there's just something just so life-giving when I'm, in the middle of a stream, and and I'm catching fish, and it just so fills me up. But I've gotten up early. I've been wandering around all day, so it's probably not restful. But then to figure out what really recharges me, and I think those two things really help to keep us full.
Yeah, I know for me it's different than it is for you, because to get up early in the morning and drive an hour and a half and stand in a freezing cold river, not going to do it for me. Versus for me, it's getting up and getting on my spin bike and working out, and then maybe having coffee with some friends before I head to the office. And so it just is,
That would
we're
be
very
so
different.
draining to be with people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But being intentional about it is what is important. What is it that brings me rest? What brings me life? That I'm well cared for, so I have something to give. Because what we do is we pour out all day long, and then we come home, and Greg wants to sit and talk deeply, right?
That's my thing.
Like this.
Yeah, deeply like that.
Very deep voice. Yeah.
He loves to have those deep, heartfelt conversations, all the time. Maybe not, but
Like all guys.
I
Yes.
feel like she was being sarcastic there.
Totally.
I was picking up on some snarkiness. Yeah.
But if you want to chat or check in about something, and if I have nothing to give you, then I'm irritated. And I'm like, I don't, he's a threat. I don't have anything to give you after I've poured out. Versus if I'm intentional, then I have something to give.
Yeah. She takes me on walks.
I don't
I
don't
talk.
Not with Olive,
Yeah.
the dog.
No,
but
I'm not
the
leashed.
same way.
I'm off
yes,
leash.
yes, you're
Is
off
that a
leash.
recent
You're trained.
development?
You are
Just
trained.
shock collared? Is that what you
Yeah.
That's just a
No,
loud beep.
for me, if we're doing something together,
Yeah.
is usually it creates the kind of
Side by side.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to talk, so we do that.
I mean,
Because
men
it's
are
life.
shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
There's no question, as
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah.
ladies
Yeah.
like that. Let's go out for coffee, and we're
Yeah.
across,
Yeah.
staring at each other in the eyes. I
Yeah.
mean,
Like
Bill
this
and
is
I-
borderline uncomfortable for me.
We're shoulder
Right.
to shoulder right
We're-
now.
You
We're-
wouldn't be
we're-
sitting on this love seat if you were the only two in the room.
Oh.
Like all sitcoms where everybody
Yeah,
sits on the
that's
same
true.
side of the table.
That's thank you for that. Yeah,
It was him.
not
It was all him.
doing that.
There you go.
You set us
Okay,
up.
so you have an audience that you'll speak to here that has everything from we got married last week to we've been married 70 years and the whole scope. Is there a time at which it does start to make sense where the relationship, you get past the honeymoon phase, probably day 7, and then you're entering real
day
life.
one.
Our son was recently married, and so they had a wonderful honeymoon, and now they're learning how to be married because the first week was pretty easy and pretty darn fun. And then you think about the other end of that continuum for the 50, 60, 70-year married couples, and just knowing that the journey they have walked is probably worthy of its own book in many ways. We've interviewed a few of them the last time that we were here, and I just love soaking in the wisdom and the experience that they bring, especially if they're willing to be candid and honest, right? So we have some who will prefer not to do that and will give you it's been wonderful every step of the way.
Yeah, liars.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
And I wish pants would go on fire.
Yeah. And then you'll see some tears from those
Yeah.
who recount the time when they were 40 when this kind of thing happened. These experiences, the ones that seem like they're going to break you, don't have to break you. Can you encourage the couples who are thinking, we're never going to get past this, he just lost his job, our child is not walking with the Lord, we are struggling with addiction in our whatever these things are that seem like this is it, this is the one that's going to crush us. Let's encourage our audience to get through those moments and to realize that it's not the end of their story, it's a chapter in the book.
I'll never forget, I'm 16 years old. I'm standing at the sink with my mom. She's washing, I'm drying the dishes. And the fact that I was a 16-year-old helping my mother wash the dishes
That's
impressive.
miraculous.
tells you things were serious in the house.
Oh, that's
And my folks were in ministry, and they were having a really rough patch. And so I just said to Mom, I said, are you and Dad going to get a divorce? And the next thing I knew, the dish towel, her wash rag was whacked up across the side of my face. And she said, don't ever let those words come out of your mouth. My mom was kind of a funny person. She did it humorously.
She is.
Yes, she's not dead. No.
She's not a was. She's a is.
And she said, that'll never happen. And I said, why? And she said, because your father loves Jesus more than he loves me. Now that may sound cliche, but that was the truth. I mean, my father did love Jesus more than he loved my mom or my wife. And that, I think, for some people that don't understand a relationship with Christ, that is oftentimes the only thing you can cling to. Okay, Lord, you promised. Doggone it, you promised that you would be with us at all times. I need to feel your presence right now. And trust us,
And it's easier said than done. It's easier said, and one of my favorite songs right now, and I'm going to touch on it a little bit tomorrow, is "The Battle Belongs" by Phil Wickham. You know, it's, I see the battle, but Lord, you see my victory. And when it comes to those, I mean, and we have been through a lot of battles here in the last year, not with each other, but with life around. And I just have to look at it and say, you're going to give us the victory. It's not easy. It's not hard. It's not. It's hard.
It's not fun.
It's not fun. But I know that the victory is yours, and it's not my battle. I just have to rest in the fact that you're fighting for us. And it's easier said than done when you're in the middle of a job change or a crisis with your child or whatever it might be, a health issue. It's not easy going through it, but just take your eyes off of the situation and put them on Jesus. And don't even put them on each other, because this person's going to let you down. Time and time again, we're going to let each other down. But the only way I think that marriages get through it healthily and to thrive is to keep their eyes on Jesus, the one that gave us each other in the first place. We can thank him for that.
Yeah. In Scripture, it talks about those who marry will face many trials and troubles. And I always laugh because you never see that verse at a wedding. However, it's recognizing it's not easy. This side of heaven is not always going to be easy. There are times of great joy. And I always say, thank goodness we have each other as we travel this journey. And there are times that there's strife between us.
No.
Sometimes, occasionally.
I mean, I don't create that.
But you've heard about it.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
the
Right.
neighbors.
Right.
But that as we have that opportunity then to repair with each other, we're actually going to talk about that either tonight or tomorrow. And as we journey and we hurt each other because we're human, then we have the opportunity to repair, and we become stronger as a result of that. We develop what is called grit. Grit is one of those things that they have researched extensively, and they say it's the number one indicator of success in life. And I think what a great gift we can give each other, that we develop marriage grit and we're stronger. And when you go through those hard times, look back.
Right.
What has God carried you through? And He'll do it again. And even if it's with each other, He will carry us through it, and we'll get to the other side stronger.
And I would say, too, that another part of, I think, why this event works is that it creates community. And for anyone struggling, a hallmark of a struggling couple beyond a hardened heart is they feel alone. They're isolated. Kind of like, you talked a little bit about, your parents. When we go through those hard times, we feel embarrassed. We feel like we're the only ones. Satan is the father of lies, convinces us that you're the only ones. And so they tend to go inward versus really it's community that's a huge part of a restoration of any relationship. You don't do this alone. We have a good friend, Pastor Ted Cunningham. He says that marriage is a duet in need of backup singers. And we need that. Like marriage was never designed as an individual sport. It's a team sport. We need a village to raise a marriage. We need people in our life. And that's why when people come here, they're laughing together, they're talking, they're realizing, whoa, they hear your story, they hear our stories, and they're like, we're going through that.
Right.
Or we're not as bad
not
as that.
alone.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that it creates hope.
Yeah.
Just the fact that we know that we're in this together. And I think that's why a large event works, is that it is creating community. And so when you're hurting your marriage, that's when you don't want to lean inward, you want to lean outward. Like, draw people in. Be honest. We're going through this hard time. Would you just walk with us? People just want presence. They just need to not feel alone, and we can do that. And so I think when you get your tribe and bring them, surround you in your marriage with your people, boy, it just that creates hope, and people can survive off of someone else's hope for a season.
Right.
And this is a very much a generalization, but for the most part, a woman will run to her girlfriends,
Right.
and a guy will not run to anyone.
Right. We isolate.
Right. But what we have to do is together run to others.
Yes.
And because the girlfriends aren't going to give you really good advice. Being alone is one of the worst things you can do. But to stay together, and this is what we did 25 years ago when we started this. We asked a group of people to come around us and hold us accountable. And that's a tough thing to do, but they have. And my best friend Russ, he literally he took me out for lunch. And I'm like, well, thanks.
Yeah.
No, we got to talk about something.
It was a
today.
setup.
Yeah, it was. Like, anytime you ask me out for lunch now, it's like, okay,
Let's
just
just
lunch.
You were a
Yeah.
gazelle led right into the lion's
I was.
den. Yeah.
But he was wise. He knew he needed to talk to me about a certain thing and do it in private. And so it is going together.
You need that.
Yeah.
Well, this concept of isolation happens in so many aspects of our society these days, and we see the tragic results from that. And it's not just teenagers, it's couples that are retreating into either their own world as a twosome or their own world individually. I was shown a video at a conference I attended about 7 years ago that I still carry this video with me, and it was the last session of the conference, and the guy got up. It was a men's conference. The guy got up, and a video on YouTube that's been viewed millions and millions of times, and it's of a gazelle down by the water in the Serengeti, and some tourist who was on a safari is just capturing this on cell phone. And he's panning this beautiful scene, and I was getting a drink of water, and he keeps panning, and off over this side is a pack of lions walking towards this thing. And he's like, oh no, and he's just going back and forth, and we're watching this at a conference going, what are we seeing here? It's just a Discovery Channel moment. And of course, they are all over this thing, just tossing it in the air. And there's this big cloud of dust. And then all of a sudden, from over here on the left, comes I don't know if it's a pack, a herd, or what they call water buffalo, but they were gigantic, and they came swooping in, started tossing away all the predators, and this little baby that had been ravaged, we were like, well, too late. I don't know what the moral to the story is, but this is a weird video. It kind of wobbles to its feet. And it gets up and it walks away surrounded by this pack of rescuers. And the guy steps to the microphone, and the last words of the conference were, "Gentlemen, without the herd, your lunch." And that's where we left it. And I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's just gospel truth.
It's so true.
Gospel truth.
And so you'll have, Ellen and I have heard in our time together, 35 years, during difficult times, we'll have people that would say, "I'm going to pray that you guys get back to where you were." And we think that's the wrong goal.
Yeah.
Glad for people praying, but the goal, the prayer is help us to be better than we ever have been before.
Right.
And to draw closer than ever before.
Yeah.
And with that prayer kicking in, I would say almost a decade ago, things have been markedly improved because it wasn't just settling for existence, mediocrity, I guess is what you would say. How do you drive that encouragement home, whether it's at this conference or wherever it is that the two of you are speaking, that there is more for you? This doesn't have to be it.
Well, think of where we're at. We're at the Grand Hotel. I have no idea when this place was built, but it has to be
135 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
So think about that. Have they ever torn this thing down to just foundation? What do they keep doing? They keep improving. They keep adding on. And I think that's what we're looking for out of our marriage is how can we continue to add something new, another tool in our toolbox, just something. What can I take away that we can apply onto what has been built for us for 31 years? And so that's what I love about this hotel is you just walk around and you're like, man, you can see where they've made changes and how they've improved and built. And I think that's what we're out for as a couple.
And you can also see where, they need a little paint job
there's a spot here.
Because there is no perfection in this world.
No.
And I think one of the things that we're relating to right now is that couple who we want to build on that. Right now, it is one gut punch after another after another. When is it going to stop? Because all those gut punches they're not driving us apart, but they're making progress.
They add stress to our everyday existence.
Right, the burden.
Well, they knock you off kilter.
Right,
Right.
and then the weight that you carry and it's not a weight of sin or a weight of, it's just life, and it can be so heavy. And for those people that's what they're experiencing, they want that, but they're just dragged down right now. Progress, just take
Progress,
the next,
not perfection.
take the next step. Whatever you got to do, take the next step.
And
And
so,
they might be little steps. They might be baby steps.
steps.
It's not going to be some gigantic, we're going to tear the whole thing down and start over. It's going
Change
to
the
be
curtains.
just that little degree, using golf as an illustration. When you're putting, I was watching a video the other day of Boo Weekly. Was it Boo or Bo? Whatever.
Boo.
Ooh,
He was
scary.
practicing, he's practicing his putts, and he's got 2 tees. And then here's the hole, and he's trying to put the ball right through there. And I'm like, that's just amazing. But he was putting it in every time. But you move those just a degree, that ball's going to be just a little off that hole, and it's not going to go in. And change is just degrees of
Incremental.
change. It's very incremental, but it makes a huge impact when you add just little things.
and celebrate those changes. So often couples will come in for counseling and, we'll have some great insight and we're moving forward, and then they'll have a, explosion or a fight, disagreement, and they'll come in the next week and go, we're back at square one. And I always say, no, you're not. You've changed.
Right.
You've been equipped. You're growing. So you can never go back to where you were. It's all in our mindset. So it's recognizing even when the challenges come and miss the baby steps, that's okay. You just keep taking them and recognizing you get to control what you think and celebrate those
Right.
baby steps.
Right, exactly.
So we want to make sure we leave our audience with some follow-up potential for the ministry of Greg and Erin Smalley through Focus. And let me have you kind of wrap up where you'd like people to go for more information and your books and the different conferences that you're a part of. And they know they can go to jayandlaura.com, but how about on your side of things?
Yeah.
focusonthefamily.com under the marriage tab, lots of resources. We're also doing a larger event called Resist the Drift. All over the country, we're pairing with Salem Media. And so it's a bigger event, as well as we have a podcast called Crazy Little Thing Called Marriage. And you can get that anywhere you get podcasts.
I would like to kind of close things out differently than we have before. And if you don't mind, Greg, would you say a prayer for our audience and the marriages represented?
Be honored. God, we recognize that you are our source, Lord, that you sustain us, that as Jay talked about, God, that we need to first and foremost be plugged into you, Lord. So just give us a refreshing connection with you, God. And Lord, just give us what we need for today, Lord. So some of us are really struggling in our relationship, Lord. So give us manna for today, Lord. Give us enough strength, God, to show up in a way consistent with who you've created us to be. And so, Lord, I pray for open hearts, God. I pray that each one of the couples, Lord, here, including us, that we take something away, Lord, that we can instantly apply that's going to bring some reconnection, some hope, Lord. And then, God, help us turn right around and look for other couples who need support and just need us to walk with them, Lord. And as we said, it does take a village, Lord. And so give us those opportunities, Lord, to do life together with other couples. We're just so grateful for your love, Lord, for us. Help us do that with each other. It's in your precious name we pray. Amen.
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 Hey, thank you for joining us on location.
Our pleasure.
This is fun stuff.
Why can't we do this every podcast?
It's a
Yeah,
pretty good idea.
Yes,
We'll just come right here to Grand Hotel every
I need a
time.
whole new
We'll meet you here every
wardrobe is the
week.
problem.
Yes, once a week. We'll be right here.
A quick reminder, you can find every episode of Marriage Talk that we've ever done on the website at marriagetalk.org. Thanks for listening, and we will talk with you again next time.